The next topic we will be covering this year is solving inequalities. Before we get into solving, we are going to take a few days to practice writing, reading, and graphing inequalities. Today's notes are going to focus on those three categories. So grab a piece of paper and something to write with and take the notes down with me. First thing we need to know are the four inequality symbols. They are greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. We're going to be using these four symbols throughout the next coming weeks as we practice solving and graphing inequalities. So this first section, we are given four inequalities. We are going to write those inequalities in words, and then we are also going to show how to graph them on a number line. These are two important skills you will need for the next few weeks. So number one, in words, this says x is greater than 9. This is the greater than symbol. So x is greater than 9 means I want all the numbers that are bigger than 9, such as 10, 11, 12, 13, so on and so forth. To graph this on a blank number line, we first need to start with the number 9. And you can put that number anywhere you want on the number line. So I will plot it here. Bigger numbers always go to the right. So the numbers bigger than 9 are 10, 11, 12, 13, and so on. The numbers that go to the left are the numbers that are smaller. So that would be 8, 7, 6, so on and so forth. In order to make the graph, we need to pay attention to the inequality symbol, this symbol right here. X is greater than 9 means I want all of the numbers bigger than 9. But before I can do that, I need to decide which type of circle I should use. So in the directions, it talks about two types of circles. We call this one closed, and we call this one open. We will use a closed circle if the number should be included in the solution set. That will be when I'm using less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. We will use an open circle when the number is not included. That'll be when I have less than or greater than. So for this problem, I had just greater than, not equal to. So because I have the strictly greater than symbol, that means I need to use an open circle. I'm not including the number 9 in my solution, but I am including all of the numbers bigger than 9. So from that circle, I'm going to shade everything to the left-hand side, go all the way through the number line to the end, and then put an arrow on the end because that shading goes on forever. Problem 2. In words, this says y is less than, and because it has this underline here, that underline means or equal to 5. So this time I'm looking for all the numbers that are smaller than or equal to 5. Because I have that underline, and because this is allowed to be equal to 5, I'm going to use a closed circle. So let's set up our number line. Start with the number 5. You can put it anywhere you want. And label some numbers that are bigger and some numbers that are smaller. We said we're going to use a closed circle, so let's find 5. And we're going to put a circle that's filled in here. 5 is included in the solution. Then I want all the numbers that are less than 5. All the numbers smaller than 5 will be to the left. So again, I shade that number line all the way through till the end. And then I put an arrow on the end to represent the fact that that shading goes on forever. Problem 3. This says z is greater than or equal to -3. So let's set up the number line. Find a spot that you would like -3 to be. I will put -3 right here. Be careful with negatives. Your larger numbers are numbers that are getting closer to 0, like -2, -1, 0, +1, +2, so on and so forth. And your smaller numbers are the numbers that are getting farther away from 0, like -4, -5, and so on. Next, I pick my circle. Because it has an underline here, that means the number is included in the solution. So I'm going to use a closed circle. So I go to -3 and use a closed circle. Then my inequality says I want all the numbers that are greater than -3. Greater than will always go to the right. So I'm going to shade everything over to the right, all the way through till the end of the number line with an arrow at the end. One more for this section problem 4. This says m is less than -10. So let's find a place on the number line to put -10. I'll put it right here. The numbers bigger will be -9, -8, -7, and so on. The numbers smaller will be -11, -12, -13, -14, and so on. I want all the numbers less than -10. So -10 is not included in the solution, so I use an open circle. But all the numbers smaller are going to go to the left, so I shade everything to the left-hand side, all the way through with an arrow on the end. So that is how we read and graph basic inequalities. I'm going to clear my screen and move on to the next section. For the next section, we want to take the inequalities that are already written to us in words. We want to turn them into algebraic inequalities, and then we're going to practice graphing those solutions on the number line. So number 1 says all numbers less than or equal to -6. You can use any variable you want to represent all numbers. Generally, we use x, but in the other examples, we'll use some other letters. Less than or equal to, this is the less than symbol, and equal to means it gets a line underneath. And then -6 means I just end it with -6. So that's the inequality. To graph that, I need to pick a spot to be -6, and I need to fill out the rest of the number line with some numbers that are bigger and some numbers that are smaller. Because it can be equal to -6, that means -6 is part of the solution. So I'm going to use a filled in closed dot on -6. And then I want all the numbers less than -6, so I will shade everything to the left-hand side, all the way till the end and put an arrow. Number 2, I want all numbers greater than 14. So again, you can use any letter you want to represent all numbers. I'll use D. Next, I want the symbol for greater than, which looks like this, and then the number 14. Find a spot on your number line to represent 14, and then fill out the rest of the number line with some numbers that are bigger and some numbers that are smaller. Oops, no negative, positive 12. Okay, this number line said, this inequality said greater, so I'm going to find 14 and use an open circle because I don't include the number 14. But I want all the numbers greater than that, so I'm going to shade everything to the right. I need to shade towards the bigger numbers, all the way through with an arrow on the end. 2 more problems, number 3. This time I want all numbers that are less than -3. So I'll use K to represent all the numbers. And then I need the symbol for less than. Less than faces that way. It looks like an L, but it's kind of squished. Then I need -3. So let's fill out the number line. I'll put -3 here. Be careful with your negatives. You always want to get closer to 0 and then turn into positives. Because I want the numbers that are less than -3, it's not allowed to be equal, so I need an open circle. And then if I want all the numbers that are less, less always goes to the left. So I shade to the left, all the way through with an arrow on the end. The final problem for these notes, number 4, says all numbers that are greater than or equal to 0. So let's use H. Then I need the symbol for greater than or equal to. This represents greater than or equal to, and then the number 0. So find a spot on your number line to represent 0. We'll throw in some positive numbers for my bigger numbers, and we'll throw in some negative numbers for my smaller numbers. Greater than or equal to, that little line here tells me that 0 is part of the solution. So I'm going to use a closed circle. And then I need all the numbers that are greater than 0. Shade all the positives all the way to the right. Keep going till you hit the end. And then put an arrow because that goes on forever. And there you have it. There's your basic reading, writing, and graphing inequalities.